Welcome to the ABCs of Horses, a Big Blend radio podcast featuring Christy Wood, a world champion horse trainer, a carded horse show judge, an equestrian expert, and an author. Welcome, everyone. We are in the middle of December, so it's the holiday season. So we want to say, it's the holiday season, but as we near the end of December, after our celebrations, we start looking at the new year and going, what do we want to do? What do we want to improve on? What kind of habits do we want to kick to the curb? So that brings us to horse lovers. Today, we're going to talk about giving yourself the gift of instruction for yourself, maybe your horse or horses, or are you getting a potential new horse into your life? So that's what we're talking about with the amazing Christy Wood. So, hey, Christy, happy holidays to you.
Well, happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you, Nancy.
Merry Christmas.
And Lisa.
Now, listen, I know we're excited about this because we all want a rocking horse under the Christmas tree. Don't you want a rocking horse under the Christmas tree?
Well,
Come on,
I
those
do,
little ones,
I'd like a bigger one. I like the real one under the Christmas tree.
The big, oh boy, you're in the land of sequoias. So,
Yes.
Everyone, Christy, her company is based and her home is based right outside Sequoia National Park in Three Rivers, Central California. So when her horses go out, you could have a giant sequoia, and Christy, who is already a small person, you guys are like little teeny weenies under those big trees, right? So, that's like you've got the nation's Christmas tree. Really, you do.
Yes, we do.
Which is amazing. I'm excited to talk about instruction, but I also want to say for the holiday season, you have books that people can get online right now, and get shipped, or even, Kindle. I know the Amazon world. Well, some of us love it. Some of them go, but you have books that can actually be gifted all the way up until day of Christmas, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Because of Amazon having those amazing ebooks and all of that good stuff. But I think in the world of instruction, can we start with your books? That would be good.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Yes.
Yeah. How many do you have now? Because
I have three books. I have 3 books out currently.
See?
And
so go get them.
Those books include, the first book is Your Best Horse Show, a guide for managers and exhibitors. So somebody who's going to be starting out next year, maybe in the horse show world, whether it's a small, open local show for you, or maybe stepping into your own breed of horse shows. This book is really a good manual for you to learn what horse shows are all about. If you are going to be part of a club that's going to put on a horse show, it's definitely going to help you or be more organized to put on that show and be successful. But there's also tips in there for exhibitors of what you should expect and what you should know and ask when you arrive at a horse show.
Right. And then you also have Ranger, which I think is going to appeal to the younger generation. But then, come on, parents I like to read all ages of books. Sorry. I don't care.
Lisa, the Ranger book is really for all ages. Some people seem to think that it's categorized as a children's book, but it's not. It's really a book for all ages, because anybody who doesn't know horses well can actually learn a lot about them through Ranger's life experience. And that's what this book is all about. And he wrote the book. The horse literally wrote the book. And so it's in his first person of his life with humans and other animals. And it's just a wonderful experience, and it's based on 100% based on a true story, because I own this horse, just an amazing, amazing horse that lived to be 32 years young. So this is his entire life story.
That's a long time. And then your newest one is Hoofprints Across Time, a trail ride to remember, which is all about the Chief Joseph trail ride that Christy does every year. This is a 13-year progressive trail ride where Christy and other members of the Appaloosa Horse Club go out and follow loosely what the Nez Perce tribe, their trail where Chief Joseph was, getting them away from the cavalry historically. And you are on your second run of this 13-year adventure, and it's powerful in regards to our history, humanity, people history, nature, and then horsemanship. So Going on a trail ride like that, instruction is necessary. And I know you do that a lot, not only in training people for, show jumping and all of those kind of things, but trail riding too. Not, being able to go on a trail ride that is overnight. You can't just go, hey, I got a horse, let's go riding overnight. It doesn't work that way.
Yes, the Hoofprints Across Time book is also has very, very good information in there about how to prepare your horse for this type of a ride and yourself. And it describes the terrain. It's not a walk in the park. It is truly climbing hills at 45-degree angles. And we're going to be up on the Continental Divide actually next year. And so we'll be up at 10,000 feet. So there's a lot of preparation so that you and your horse can be safe and healthy throughout the week's ride. And it's just a wonderful book that connects you with the people that make this pilgrimage every year and the history and the Appaloosa horse. And of course, I'm just going to get a plug in here for the Chief Joseph Trail Ride. You can find out more information on Appaloosa.com with the Appaloosa Horse Club. But we have also opened up this ride now to 30 non-Appaloosa horses, which means we're inviting people that might own and ride an Arabian or a paint or a quarter horse or any other combination of breeds. And we're inviting other breeds of horses to come and enjoy this and experience this ride with us. So 30 horses are allowed to come now that are non-Appaloosas just to share this wonderful experience with them.
I want to go into this, that's such an epic trail ride, and you just don't want to do it as a beginner either. You should have at least a few days of riding experience. And with the, I being instruction for today, I want to start at the beginning because I think I'll go back to being a kid who loved horses. I keep always telling you I have horses all over my room. Like every calendar was pulled out. Nancy painted horses. In fact, she painted a pony and a little, and its little babies, little foal in flowers in England. And I want to yell at her across the room right now because she sold the painting and she still owes me this painting back. It was the most, but that, I was just like incensed by it. Like I was obsessed, I should say, by horses. And I'm still just I've calmed down now because my hormones are back in place, from being a teenager, but then I'm middle-aged, so who knows what could happen. But these beautiful beings, they represent so much, right? And then it's like, I want to ride them. And then Nancy goes, you aren't riding them until you start to get to know them. And you're going to take classes just even to know how to communicate with them. And so Nancy was very adamant. You want a horse? There is no horse. We are not buying a horse until you go riding, you get some lessons, and you're not just going to go on trail rides, on a vacation to figure it out. I mean, that's a good way to see if you really want to, but because it's an easy kind of thing, but that can get wonky too, depending on where you are. That's a whole other conversation, Christy, about people going on vacations and going on trail rides. But she really kind of was like, you need to go and do the absolute basics. And until you can communicate and be with someone who's like, okay, now you get to ride in an arena, just like what you did when we came to see you. We didn't go on a trail ride with you until you had us in the arena. And we got to, be with the horse and get cozy with everybody, be cozy before we could go out. So can we start at that level of instruction? Is that the first step, or are we all being too cautious, Nancy and I, about it?
Actually, Nancy was very wise in telling you that you needed to have some instruction first, learn how to ride, and learn about a horse's personality, their mannerisms, and their own body language. And they have a language that we need to observe and learn so that we can communicate together. So lessons are very important. The old saying, the reason we started this podcast is because I've been getting a lot of calls lately for people that bought a horse and they say, okay, now what do we do? Well, that's really the backwards way to do things. That's like what they say, the cart before the horse. And really, you need to get some instruction first to understand the responsibility and what it's going to be like to be around a horse and to take care of them and to know that the care is proper and that they're healthy. And you need to know how to manage a horse, even leading it on the ground, let alone communicating with it when you're sitting in the saddle.
So if you're a kid, so for parents listening with kids that go, I want a pony, this would be the first step is go to local horse lessons.
By the horse facility. Yeah. So I can walk you through, I'm going to walk you through, let's say, a first lesson with me when you come for the first time.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people say, well, I've been around horses before. I say, really, what's your experience? They say, well, I've petted one over the fence. Okay, well, that's nice, but that's not really learning a lot about horses. And so we start with a lesson. The very first thing you're going to do is learn how to put a halter on a horse. And that's the bitless bridle that goes over the horse's head to lead it. And it's very important that you learn ground manners first. You and your horse need to be comfortable on the ground. That horse needs to respect your space, and you need to know how to communicate with a horse to make sure that you partner with him on the ground as well. And on the ground means you're going to be leading. You're going to walk your horse forward, maybe stop and turn and make the horse walk towards you or walk away from you, and just have safety. It's also important to have safety on the ground. So you learn to put a halter on, and you learn to lead that horse from its paddock or corral or stall, wherever it's kept, up to, we call it the tack room. And we talked about that a few podcasts ago, about that's where we keep our gear for our horses, the bridles, saddles, pads, brushes, everything else. And you're going to lead your horse up there. And then the first thing you also learn leading that horse to the tack room is to learn how to tie it properly with a quick release knot.
Okay.
Some horses can pull back and some horses may not stand quietly, or, you know, there's always the element of surprise, no matter where you are, how broken, how well trained your horse is. Especially in Three Rivers here, we have flocks of turkey that all of a sudden can surprise you and jump out from the bush. We have, you know, foxes and coyotes and even bears and deer that can roam around your property. So it's important to know how to tie a horse properly to secure it, but also be prepared to release it in case of an emergency. So in leading your horse, you have to know how to stop it, how to ask the horse to go forward. And then we get into the grooming process of how to groom.
That's what I was going to ask you, the grooming, because I remember not being allowed to ride a horse until you knew how to groom the horse and connect with the horse through grooming.
Grooming is very important, Lisa. And we groom for three basic reasons. Number one, we're going to get the dirt off the horse so that we can put the saddle on and ride it. And so its hair coat needs to be cleaned and free of any debris or you know, maybe foxtails. Of course, my horses don't have foxtails in the paddocks that they're in, but you never know what they pick up in the nighttime and in their paddocks during the day if they lie down and roll. So we want to get them clean first to prepare them for riding. You also groom them to basically get to know your horse, and he gets to know you. You may be a new person. Your voice is going to be different. Your scent is going to be different. And this is like giving your horse a little horsey massage and getting to know them. And the horse is going to observe you as well and say, gee, this is a nice person. I can relax. They're grooming me very nicely and in the proper way. And then really the third reason we groom too is to check our horse to make sure nothing has happened overnight, like a horse had gotten rubbed up against the fence or got a leg caught in the fence. There might be a horse that has a slight cut for whatever reason. And that's what you're also checking, is to make sure your horse's shoes are still on, things like that. So it's okay. For observation, it's for grooming, for cleanliness, for the ride, and it's also to become a partner and to have a partnership with this horse as you groom.
Wow. So you go through this whole big thing, and then you get to learn how to mount a horse. The next step after that is I jumped ahead. I'm in trouble.
Not just grooming, but then the final part of grooming also is to make sure your hooves are checked. We clean the hooves, make sure those shoes, if there are on, are still tight. But we do need to clean a horse's hoof before we ride, because again, they can pick up debris of little sticks or rocks, even little pieces of glass or metal. Who knows what comes up in the dirt each night that a horse walks over the terrain and loosens things. And so we just need to make sure that the hooves are clean. But then the next process is learning how to tack the horse, how to put the saddle and bridle on before you mount up. So that's the proper instruction is knowing
See, I got
how
too
to fit the horse,
excited.
make sure the pad's in the right place.
Ah, see, that's it. Actually, and even doing the bridle correctly isn't that a big deal? How
That's
to
real
put the
important
bit
too.
in. The
Yes.
bit
So
is
once,
like always like can be weird.
right. So once the saddle is put on the horse properly and it is cinched properly, and you go through learning how to tie the straps and do everything that you need to do with your saddle. At that point, I sort of pause there before we even bridle the horse, and I give my students an anatomy lesson. It's important that they understand the horse's ears, how the eyes are on the side of the head because of their vision is different than ours, and then they get to look at the horse's mouth. It's important that you know how a bit will fit in a horse's mouth and actually where it rests. So it's not resting on teeth. There's actually a gum line past the front teeth where the horse bites to eat its food, and before it goes to the rest of its back molars to chew its food. It's just important that they see that and they see the gum line. That's where the bit's going to rest. So you have to
Mm.
keep that in your mind. So when you ride your horse, you don't jerk hard and pull hard on that bit because we're dealing with soft tissue in that horse's mouth. And that's actually how you control your horse. Of course, there's other aids for of my instruction that help you
Hmm.
communicate with your horse. But I want people to be aware of that, how sensitive that mouth is. Also, the fact that they have a different vision than you and I do. We've got tunnel vision because our eyes are straight ahead of us on our head, and the horse has their eyes on the side. So they're going to see a lot more movement. Their ears definitely pick up more sound. So it's important that they learn body language, meaning the horse's head position, how the ears are moving, the sounds the horse is picking up, even before we put the bridle on.
So we go through this whole process. I mean, this
Yes,
is before you're allowed to ride. But if you're
yes.
on vacation and you go to Mexico and they say get on the horse, go on a beach ride, I want to do a show on that because I want to know that like who, what, and where, right? And are they taking care of these horses? A lot of times they are. But so all of this is so important to go through before you get on a horse. And then it's like the instruction of even, I mean, I remember having to walk the horse before you could ride the horse, with the horse having the saddle on, having to walk
Well,
it before
yes.
you could ride
So
it.
yes. So when you cinch that saddle up, we don't ever cinch the saddle as tight as you need it for your final preparation to ride. We get it snug, but not tight. Because some horses don't like that pressure. If you're quick to tighten the cinch and it gets too tight, you can actually knock the wind out of the horse. The horse could pull back, they could panic. So we just get that saddle snug enough. And then my students actually lead their horse over to the arena where the mounting blocks are. So the horse has a short distance to walk to relax their breathing. And then we do a final cinch check before you mount up. And we use mounting blocks in the beginning because you need to learn
Yeah.
how to use your legs properly with your foot in the stirrup and how to extend your leg and straighten it so your other leg swings behind the horse and then you ease yourself into the saddle. So I don't teach people to mount from the ground right away because they're not used to their balance. They're not used
Hmm.
to how it's going to feel to straddle that horse. And it also preserves my horse's back by not having people that weigh differently, that have different weights to mount a horse from the ground because that takes really a little more skill and flexibility that people need to develop. So we use mounting blocks first. But that's where you will tighten the cinch then is at the mounting block. And then you can mount your horse
Hmm.
and ease nice and gently into that saddle. And then we go on from there with instruction.
So it's not like the Westerns where we can just run and jump on the horse.
No, I'm not teaching trick riding. Not at this point. No.
No, okay, just making sure. Well, because it is funny because people kind of, I think the movies are classic and there are trick writing and everything, and those people are so attuned to their horse. It's like you need to, it's a stunt and everything, like anything doing stunt work and that's a big deal. But sometimes I think we get Hollywooded to the point of thinking, oh, we can just, leap
Well,
on a
that's why,
horse. It
Lisa,
it
that's why
doesn't work.
instruction is so important because yes, people will see a Western movie and they love it, and it's great to watch John Wayne gallop
And
off
it's
into
fun.
the sunset. There's a lot of preparation that goes into that. There's a lot of training, there's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot of learning to know how to gallop correctly into the sunset. And
Mm.
it's something as simple with your first lesson. of putting your foot in the saddle when you're at the mounting block, excuse me, into the stirrup, to swing, to stand up, to swing your leg over. I have to tell people right then and there, you need to slowly ease into the saddle on the horse's back. And if I don't say that, the first thing people want to do is to use a lot of energy, just like you said, almost like running and jumping and landing hard on a horse's back. If you throw your leg over and you just drop
Mm-mm.
all of your weight down, let's say you weigh 180 pounds, and just smash onto that horse's back, you're going to hurt his back. His whole body's
And
going to shake because you didn't control your own body weight to make it
mhm.
pleasant and balanced to stay on that horse.
There's a technique. And I think once
Yes.
you, like, you're really right about using the mounting blocks because once you understand the saddle and the rhythm and the feel of it, you can kind of slowly get a technique to doing it, especially per horse, right?
Right.
And, I remember people just like, I know what, not doing the saddle correctly, right? Kind of trying to skip those steps, right? And horses will mess with you. I remember horses going, I'm going to mess with you. Horses are so smart. They
Yeah, but
are
let's
smart.
let's talk about that, Lisa. If that saddle's not in the correct position, then you're
You're going
actually going,
down.
you're going to hurt.
You're swirling. You
Well,
got
no,
it
you're gonna
swirly.
you're gonna hurt the horse's back. So that's not
Hmm.
what we want to do. We want to make sure the saddle fits correctly, and that's what you learn is how to put a saddle on correctly so that doesn't hurt the horse's back.
Well, I've seen people get in and think they have done it all, get their foot in, and the saddle slides and swirls, the swirly. And that is insane. Like you did not do the step of checking everything. They just think, oh,
You
I can do
recheck that
this.
set twice.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. And they did. And it is about, just hanging in there and also thinking you can, there's just a technique where you're not pulling the saddle either. You know what I mean? Like people will start using the saddle like a rope or something. It's like you can use it as a thing, but not pull like, yeah, there's a technique. And
Well,
that's
that's
why
why that's
instruction is
why the mounting
important.
block is so important, Lisa, so that
Yeah.
you're already elevated enough to step into that stirrup to swing your leg over gently without mounting from the ground first. If you've never ridden a horse, you don't understand the stretch that you need in your inner thighs, the flexibility you need in your knee, the strength you need in your arms to pull yourself up. So we use mounting blocks first till people understand their balance. Now, here's the other thing is all of my students are told to cross train. And that means just riding the horse itself is not enough to get your body prepared. The
Mm,
strength in the core that you're going to need, the strength you're going to need in your legs, the stretch in your calf, the flexibility in your ankle, and the control over your upper body. And so I ask my students to cross train at home. If you're
mm.
sitting at home watching TV, get on one of those bouncy balls and grip that ball with your inner thighs. If your arms are weak, then you start lifting some weights, even if they're 1 or 2 pound weights, because you're going to be lifting a 35-pound saddle up probably over your head or at least up to your chin in order to get it on the horse's back. So
Yeah.
there's
That's
you
huge.
need to be
Actually,
fit. You need to be fit to ride a horse.
you know what? Horses help me in my body. I have fallen arches, flat feet, knock knees, and they gave me arches as a baby. They did all these things. And if you start to get overweight as me, it's not a good thing. So I always know when I start hurting, even as a teenager, waitressing and everything, I had bad ankles and I hurt, couldn't walk. I'd crawl at certain points, right?
Too
Coming
bad.
home from work. No, but when we had horses and I rode, it really, and by the way, my lifting was you're carrying that horse food. You're doing the stables. I physically did physical work we had a mini farm. So I'm like, I was physically fit. It was the fittest thing of my life because you're gardening. We were growing our own food. We were doing all these things. And the horses, you're cleaning the stables, the paddocks, or what do you call them? Corrals here. All of that. But my inner legs, like the knock knee thing, because of the positioning of horses, the doctor, like when I was a baby, I mean, this was like a long time ago, y'all. They told my mom, like, hey, you know what? Horse riding or bicycle riding is going to be what saves her.
Ah,
And I haven't done either, and it did. And because you have to have, like, if you're going to do, and it was British style, if you're going to trot British style, you better have some muscle. You can't rely on, no.
Every part of your body is used. Your core is so important, and the strength in your legs is very important. Even a simple task, it sounds simple, to lift a horse's hoof or leg, excuse me, to clean the hoof. Most people will go, "Oh my gosh, my back really hurts." They don't realize the strength you need in your core and in your back muscles. It's just entirely different. So you need to be fit. And I try to tell people, regardless of your size, you need to have good command over what God gave you. Let's just put it that way. So some people will be heavier than others. Some will be leaner than others. Doesn't mean that the lean person is going to be stronger. You just need to have good command of what you have.
Lithe. You need to be able to move and be lithe and not, you can't be jerky. There, there's an elegance with the horses. You have the biggest horse, Nancy's horse. I mean, he was 19 hands. He was a cart horse, a Flemish cart horse. He was a big boy, but he was graceful. Believe it or not. I mean, furry and graceful. And you didn't have to, you're not going to control over being bigger or stronger. You're not on a horse. It's not going to happen. The smallest person can get on the biggest horse and win everything. You know what I mean? If they have that communication, but you have to be able to react properly. Does that make sense? Like you have to be able to move accordingly to what's going on if you're on a horse.
Right, you've got to be able to keep your balance no matter what.
Yeah, your body has to be that fit.
Yes.
So that, like, you don't want to try and climb Mount Everest when you haven't gone on a neighborhood walk,
Yeah. Well,
so I love this conversation.
My show jumper used to be was 17 hands, and they used to call me a peanut because I sat up on top of that horse, and I'm only 5'1", 100 pounds. So I looked like a postage stamp up there. But it was a lot of fun, and we were just a great team together. But so the lesson goes on from there. Now we're in the arena, and you get some instruction, and we won't do a full lesson here today on the podcast. But you need to understand how to communicate with a horse. And so whether in the saddle or on the ground, it's important that you take some instruction first to be prepared for horse ownership. So I used to do horse camps here as well, and I still do sort of mini horse camps with people so that they can come and learn how to feed a horse properly, how to look for what makes your horse healthy with what you feed and what comes out the other end. The manure is very important again. I know you always like to tease when we talk about poo. But it's important that horse ownership is important in observing. You're taking care of a very large animal now. It's a little different than a little Chihuahua dog. And you just have to observe your horse's mannerisms in the paddocks or with other horses, learn how to feed them properly. There's so many good different feed programs. We talked about that, I think, in the last podcast with H and hoof and supplements and things you can feed horses. And there's just a lot of horse ownership. So that my point here is, please get some instruction prior to horse ownership. And then you'll be more prepared and realize what's involved with money and with time and with care.
Yeah, because bills come in. Yeah. There's food and then all of a sudden extra supplements and then all of a sudden vet bills and then doctor bills when you fall off because you didn't listen to the instructor.
Let's hope you have a well-trained horse so you don't fall off. And let's hope that you're trained enough to not fall off. So
actually, we did pretty good.
You just can never really ride enough and learn enough and practice enough to be good at what you're going to be.
I think what you're saying is so important because if you go through the instruction, right, before you even own a horse, look at a horse, you may be eyeballing and going, I want, right? I think this is so important. And honestly, I believe people, if you haven't had a dog in your life, go volunteer at an SPCA and start walking dogs.
There you go.
And start, helping friends with their dogs and start getting involved before you take full ownership.
Right, and then you're also going to understand the different breeds of dogs and what their mannerisms are.
Immerse yourself in it. And if you start to feel like this is too much, sometimes anything that you do that's new and you're learning, we all have those moments where like, But if you really love it, you'll come back to it, right? But
Yes,
if
and there
it
are some
is,
stables that will have horses for lease. Sometimes there are people that need to share a lease because they work full time and
oh,
that horse
wow.
can't get ridden all the time. There's a lot of different ways to get into that. But again, I think we're gearing this towards people that want to go out and eventually buy a horse and have it at home and have a
Mm,
family horse. And this is where it begins. This begins with instruction. Let's get you
mhm.
educated so that you're prepared to be a good horse parent.
Now, I want to say this is so important to do the groundwork, get that going, then you can make an informed decision. That's the important thing, right? You have this informed decision, then you want to go get a horse, and now that's a whole other thing. So I wanted to touch base with you, Christy, on that, and that, like, if someone, people are listening from all over, the States and around the world. If someone's like, okay, I did some lessons, or maybe they came to you, because I know you're on site, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of an on-site thing.
Mhm.
But can you help someone if they're like, okay, I want to get a horse? Isn't there instruction on how to buy a horse? Because people go, oh, I saw a rescue horse, or oh, I think this horse is so cute. It's just, calling to me. Or,
Okay, okay,
oh,
okay. I know where you're going with
I
this.
want a Palomino, you
Okay,
know.
yeah. Okay, so really, it's a good idea to hire somebody, such as myself, somebody that is a professional in the horse industry, that knows horses, knows mannerisms, knows bloodlines, knows conformation, meaning how the horse is put together. You need to have someone to go with you to sort of screen through this process of helping you, shop for this horse and be prepared.
Mm. And it also goes with what you want out of the horse, right? Are you just wanting to have a
Well, let
horse in
me
the backyard and hang out and maybe go on a weekend ride
Yeah. So,
every weekend?
really,
Yeah.
we've talked about safety and groundwork. It's important to have a horse that's well trained. You don't need to, and as a beginner, you don't need to go out and get a young horse that's only had a couple of months riding because that horse is not educated. It is not fully trained, and you are not either. So you don't want to mix two green elements. You need a
Okay.
green rider and a green horse. You need something that's much more experienced for your first horse. But
Mm.
it's all about safety, and this horse needs to be well trained, and it's something that you need to look at when you're starting to shop. It's about safety. So to tell me you like a Palomino horse and you bought a horse just because it's a Palomino, that's really incorrect. It's not, the color's not the issue. The disposition is more important. The conformation is very important. You need a horse that has good legs and good hooves. Um, Bloodlines are very important. Whether if the horse is registered, you need to look at that because there are some bloodlines that are different, that pass on different genetic traits that we might want to avoid. But you need help. Ask for help to go look for the
Mhm.
right horse. Or that's what I do. People can send me videos and I screen their videos. I'll look at the videos. I help them ask the right questions. We do a lot of video shopping first these days because we can sit at our computer and look at 10 different horses and then kind of sift through those 10 horses and find the one or two that we want to make the trip to go drive and go try out. So video
Ah,
shopping.
nice. Oh, okay. So I know we've talked a lot about beginner instruction. So, okay, so now you've got a horse and now you're really into it. You're already show jumping, maybe have one or two horses. How important is instruction post beginner? Like in whatever you're doing with a horse, whether it's trail riding, barrel racing, excuse me. I have no clue about that, but so as you can tell.
But again, it
But
depends. Okay, but
yeah.
Lisa, it depends on how much instruction you had before you bought this horse. If you're confident enough to be to buy the trail horse that you want, and you've ridden this horse on the trail, and now you're riding with your friends, if everything is going along really well, then you probably don't need additional instruction. Now, if there's something new you want to learn, do you want to learn more of a foundation, how to teach your horse how to side pass, work over obstacles, work a gait, possibly even jump, whatever that may be, then yes, you're going to look for more instruction. But
Okay.
if this horse is great going down the trail and you're enjoying yourself, then thank goodness you
Mm,
found a great horse. You've got a good one and just enjoy that. That's what it's all about, is to find a horse that that fits you. So you don't want to really have to go
cool.
out and buy one that needs more training, because then you're going to be a little frustrated with that because you yourself don't have that training. And now both of you have to be trained, you and the horse. So it's better
Mm,
to shop and maybe spend a little more money for the finished product So you can just, we call it turnkey. You put your foot in the stirrup, throw your leg over
Yeah.
the horse and go out and ride those hills or
But,
go into the
but,
show early because the horse is ready to go.
but you need to understand the commands that how they were trained, right? Is that it? I mean,
Well, yeah.
because I
So
know from the
hopefully,
dog world that and dogs, like I want to know what your dogs were taught before we take care of your dogs. I want to know that.
you're going to discover that when you go out to try it. You're going to go ride that horse hopefully several times and try that
Oh,
horse out, and you're
okay.
going to know whether or not you can communicate. If you're totally lost and this horse has a lot more bells and whistles than you know what to do with, then yes, you could get some instruction to learn more, but the person selling you that horse should really be hopefully honest about everything that horse knows, help you understand how to communicate with it.
Hmm.
Um,
Wow. That's a lot of good stuff, when you think about someone getting, because it's an investment in not only money, right? But
right.
it's an investment in time. When you get a
Yeah.
horse, your life is going to change. It's not going to be the same as it was. You know what I mean? But I think it's great that you were talking about that people will lease horses or share horses or, there's different options there. So long as the horse has some kind, loving attention. I'm sorry. If you want me to come pet your horse, I will. I will come do it. The
Well, Lisa,
horses need
what's
love.
kind of sad too is there's a lot of people out there that have horses and they've just kind of gotten along okay with their horse and they've never had formal instruction. They don't understand how to use leg aids or how to make your ride better. And then they turn around and they try to sell a horse because they're tired of it now and they want to go on. Well, the horse may have issues too, and they're not aware of that. I mean, I've run into this in the last several months of people looking for horses to buy, and the people selling the horses don't know what they have. They don't know that the horse is either well trained or can do other things, or unfortunately, conformational and health issues. The people selling the horse are unaware that the horse may have the start of ring bone, or they have other issues, or the legs aren't real straight, and all of a sudden this horse is lame on one leg. It's just kind of sad. So not everybody has all the knowledge that all of us wish everybody had, and that's why you really need to look to a professional to help you screen
Mm,
what you're looking at and
okay.
protect you
Yeah.
from a lot of the pitfalls that are out there.
Good info. As always. So happy Christmas. Happy holidays to you, Christy, and your family,
Thank
and to
you.
all
Thank
your
you.
horsies and your doggies. See, I sound like a child now. I went all like cozy. But really, now, do you give your horses like holiday treats? I mean, not that they know like what's going on, but do you ever
Oh,
do
sure.
that
We
kind
get
of
extra
thing?
bags of carrots and apples, and they get lots of treats
Ah,
at Christmas
they,
time because we like to celebrate Christmas. So,
that's cool. So you give
yep,
them the Christmas carrot. That's
yep,
cool.
Christmas
I love
carrot.
that. I love that. I love that. Well, thank
They
you
get
so
little
much.
bows. They get little red wreaths in front of their stalls, and we make it real cheery. Maybe even have a few lights hanging off of the attack room
Ah,
for Christmas
oh,
time. So, yeah, it's a lot of
oh,
fun.
oh, oh, real quick, real quick. Okay. So, this whole instruction conversation, right?
Yes.
Do you keep a journal of what's going on with your horses and you and how, like, if you're training or, because we've got into the beginner side, but is it a good idea for someone getting started to write a journal, like just notes? You don't have to write Dear Abby or anything. Just, hey, I went to learn this today. This is what I need to do more of. This is where I was great and this was exciting.
Yes,
In that kind of thing.
if you're an amateur or a youth, it's certainly a good idea to write down maybe a great ride you had with your horse that day and what was so good about it. If you've had problems areas, then you need to write those down as well, because then you're going to seek out instruction and some help. So it's always good. And then if you take your riding lesson, you bring your horse to that facility and that trainer, or you ride their horse and you're learning on trying to learn a different skill, certainly a journal is a great idea to go back and review if your brain isn't trained to absorb every single word that a trainer is going to give you. And you can also videotape your lessons, which is a great idea, so that you and your family
Mm.
can review them again and practice that again at home.
And do the videos also help if as you're growing with the horse that maybe you got that you can just send to a trainer and
Of
say,
course.
hey, this is how I'm riding. This is what I look like.
Yes, yes.
Like they do in Ted Lasso, man. Come on.
Yeah. I review a lot of videos for people And when if they've gone out to try a horse, I watch them ride. I watch the horse's mannerisms, how the horse is saddled. If I can't be there with them, then they can certainly send me those videos, and I'll screen them for them. Give them
Awesome.
my opinion.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christy. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here, and happy holidays. Merry Christmas. We'll see you in the new year with another episode. And we're going to be talking about judging. Yeah, that's what January is for. January is all about judgment. So we'll see you for Judgment Day in January.
In a good way. In a good way. Thank you, Lisa and Nancy. Thank you, Big Blend Radio. And let me hear from everyone out there. If you like the podcast, please send me an email and let me know. And let me know what
ask questions. Any questions you have, Christy will answer them. But good ones. So thanks so much. Take care, Christy.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's ABCs of Horses featuring Christy Wood. You can keep up with Christy and learn more about her services and her books by going to her website, wdnhorse.com. Keep up with Big Blend Radio at bigblendradio.com.